Hey there guys, welcome back to another video. Christmas is just past us and it's time to slowly start looking forward to 2017, but not without looking back on what's happened in 2016. Well, game-wise, that is, of course. So today I'm gonna give you my personal top 10 games of 2016. Now again, might I add that I said personal, so this is purely my taste. It has nothing to do with either sponsorships, with how much it's sold, with how the ratings were for other critics and stuff. It's just literally my personal opinion. So it's totally fine if you disagree. It is totally fine if you agree as well, of course. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. At number 10, I have Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 wasn't one of those games we will be remembering for the rest of our lifetimes like some games are. It's not that it's a bad game, it has amazing graphics, it has a very interesting world, and the characters are at points quite interesting and you do care about some of them. However, the story is so absolutely messy and just chaotic that it's really hard to actually get a grip on the game and its current situation. So while it has a lot of pros, there's also this big con which just makes it not as good as people might have hoped. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad game. It is a game that it's pretty good, and you could be having lots of fun for multiple hours while playing it. But for me personally, it just wasn't good enough, especially after the wait some of the fans had to endure. At number 9, we have Hitman, which is the 6th installment of the franchise, but it's just called Hitman because they wanted to reboot everything, something that the franchise in many eyes probably needed. While I personally liked Hitman Absolution, people didn't feel like it was true to what Hitman was actually about. Hitman, while it was good, it had great levels, it had lots of options to do your missions, whether it was stealthy, with lots of attacking force, it has a lot of diversity in how you can do it and how things could play out. I personally didn't like the way they put it into episodes. Like, a game like that should just be a full game in which you can pick different levels and play them all. I'm not saying that episodes are always bad. For some games it really worked, like Life is Strange or for Walking Dead from Telltale. I just don't like the episode system with a game like Hitman. It just doesn't really work because it's not something that you were eagerly awaiting for, and it's probably not a smart idea just from a selling point of view, a strategic point of view, as just being immersed in the game and want to play it in one sitting, or maybe just go about and play all the levels and try everything out. Also, a real big con that a lot of people encountered was that you needed a stable internet connection, because if you lost your connection at any point during any time in the game, it will just pop you out and you wouldn't be able to play any further and probably lost a lot of progress, which is a really big con for a lot of people. On at number 8, we have Titanfall 2. Titanfall needed a big reboot, or so the fans decided. It needed something new and fresh because it wasn't good enough. And I think they did step up their game. The level and map designs were absolutely fantastic, the gameplay was really good, and the single player, surprisingly to many people, was actually pretty damn good as well. However, the single player was a bit short. It fell short, it was just a couple of hours, but those couple of hours were good. If they can move on and get the same kind of quality in their next game, but with the length, it could be much higher in somebody's list. On 7, we have Watch Dogs 2. Watch Dogs 1 was an ultimate flop. We all know that it was a terrible game, or well, it wasn't terrible, but it just really wasn't what it could be on every single aspect of the game. Watch Dogs 2, while it isn't a masterpiece or a memorable game like I've already said before, it is an amazing open world game. There's lots to do, lots to see, there are lots of options, and it's just an overall great world to be in. The characters are kinda cool, not all of them are very interesting. The story isn't bad, but it's also not spectacular. The game, however, does get repetitive at some points, and therefore it's not higher. But I have to say that Watch Dogs pleasantly surprised me. On number 6, we have Total War Warhammer. Total War Warhammer isn't the game for everybody. Let me just be very clear about that. I personally have been a fan of Total War ever since they brought out their first bunch of games. The strategy games thing have always kind of been my thing, and I'm really enjoying this so far. I've probably played 150 hours of this, and I'm probably still gonna play more, even though I have died down with it a little bit at the moment. It has great level design, the map is fantastic, all the little maps from which you do the actual real-time fighting are amazing as well. Some of them are a bit lacking, but like the underground battles are really cool. You have a really nice variety of units with different kinds of people and races and all that stuff, and it's just really cool because for me, this is the perfect genre game combination combination. A fantasy strategy game, especially with the way Total War and Sega have been putting them out. It's just a perfect combination, and I'm glad to say that it worked. The biggest cons, however, were the very unstable launch, which had lots of crashes and lots of other issues involving FPS issues, and which it still does if you don't have a really high-end system. But the worst thing of all, and I know that it's unfair to judge the actual game by this, but I'm still gonna do it anyway. Sega and the people who bring these Total War games out have the worst DLC management in the entire history of gaming industry. It has obviously nothing to do with the game itself, but the DLCs are absolutely horrendous. You have to pay $2 to get blood in an all-out war game. Now, I'm not saying that all DLCs are bad. The Beastman pack and the new one with the Elves race is actually really good, even though you pay 15 bucks for either of them. And for me, it just should have been in-game. If you would have paid 30 bucks for the main game and 15 more for these like 2 big race packs, okay. Still not my piece of cake, but I can kind of understand. This was a $60 game to begin with, and it didn't even have blood. Again, you have to pay for that. It's just absolutely horrendous, and if they finally fix that shit and get their DLC shit together, they might actually end up a little bit higher, but for now, they disappointed me with that once again, despite bringing out a really good game. On 5, halfway through the list, we have Battlefield 1. Battlefield and Call of Duty has always been a kind of FIFA and PES rivalry. Who of the two brings out the best? And this year, by far, it had to be Battlefield 1. The graphics are absolutely amazing. They are gorgeous. The world is gorgeous. The level design and the maps are amazingly designed too. It has this real terrifying, nasty, chaotic feel of an actual World War I battle, and with the 64 multiplayer games, it just adds to that even more. On top of that, everything is destructible, so your tanks and bombs and grenades can literally blow up buildings and trees and stuff, and it's just absolutely amazing. Just run around with like 30 of your crew members and just go full on at the enemy, exploding everything within your path and just shooting everything and everyone in sight. That's why it's such a shame the single player is so disappointing. Now, I'm not talking about the story and the gameplay itself, because those are as well very much on point. The fact is that you can complete the entire single player thing within 5 hours if you're any good at this game, and that just isn't good enough. It's the same with Titanfall 2 really, with a little bit more attention to their single player, and with a little more, I mean a couple of dozen more hours. It could be really good, but now just really good. In at number 4, a very surprising one, it's the indie game called Inside. Now this game has been highly praised, and I think that it deserves every bit of credit that it's received. The story is weird. The game overall is just weird. The whole vibe is just strange, but it's awesome. The world is very immersive. You have a character that literally doesn't say a single word, and yet you kind of unravel his story by playing through this really weird sort of universe in which you've found yourself in, no idea what's going on, having to build up that story from scratch. The level design is fantastic, it looks amazing, it really feels dark and mysterious, which it is. And on top of that, it's just very original. Very rarely do you see a game like this, and I think that's a very good thing. The only real con I could find about this game was that it was just kinda really short. Again, this was a couple of hour game experience, and again, a couple of really good hours, but still only a couple of hours nonetheless. In at number 3, we have a very popular title, The Last Guardian. Now, I know a lot of people were immensely hyped for this game. I know a couple of people myself who were waiting for this game for years and years, just like with Final Fantasy 15 really. This one, however, is a little bit better at delivering what it promised it would. It has a really immersive and, might I say, gorgeous looking world. It's absolutely fantastic, it's top notch. The AI in it is astounding. It's just like level-breaking, mind-blowingly good. The AI is super fantastic, and it's like a new step in the world of gaming, if you ask me. And above all that, even though it has its cons, which I will get to in a second, it is just one of those games you will remember. It is one of those titles, if you've played it, it's a story that will stick with you. It's something that you will remember. The Last Guardian will be something that you will still talk about in 5 years. Partially because you had to wait for it so damn long, and it became kind of this legend kind of thing in the gaming world. But it's overall a very good one. What I didn't like about it was that it's very buggy and wonky at times. The controls are absolutely awful. You can just really see that it's kind of outdated, really. Apart from that, the gameplay itself gets kind of repetitive, but the story makes up for a lot of things, and normally games might not get away with this, but The Last Guardian somehow does because it has my sympathy, and therefore it's really high, ending up at number 3. Number 1 and number 2. I had a really difficult time deciding these. I'm gonna be completely honest, I had a hard time getting 10 games in general. And normally that would be a good thing, because you have to think about, oh damn it, so many good games, which one do I put in? I literally didn't have that problem. I had like about 12 games to select from, and it wasn't hard at all, really. It was really hard to get those 12 games, but other than that, there's nothing. This has been a really bad year for gaming in my personal opinion. At least in this list we see a couple of really good titles who have made up for that lack of good games. And at number 2 is one that has really done so for me personally. The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. Hold your horses and stop criticizing me. I can feel it already. I can feel the looks. But Patrick, that's a DLC, not a game. Believe me, I know. I am probably the biggest Witcher fan you can ever find in the universe. Yes, it's a DLC, but it's a 50-hour DLC, which is more than most of the AAA games now combined. The Witcher has always been known for its intense storytelling, this dark and grim and like gray area. There's no white and dark. There's no good and bad. There is always this gray area in which you are in as the character Geralt. Funnily enough, that kind of all goes away in this DLC. And I like it. It's very over the top. It's like this kingdom of Toussaint where everything is colorful and blue, green and yellow. Well, normally it would probably be more dark and grayish. It's very colorful, it's very rich. There's literally knights in shining armor and golden haired maiden. There's kings and queens, there's wine. It's beautiful, and it's so different from the atmosphere we're usually used to. But it works really well because The Witcher and the guys from CD Projekt Red can basically pull off anything. In my personal opinion, the 2 DLCs, Hearts of Stone and of course this one, Blood and Wine, have been better than the main game story-wise, purely story-wise. This one is Blood and Wine. You can pick that up for $20 and it's probably less by now. And if you want to do everything that's to do on this DLC, you will probably be busy 50 to 60 hours. It's the best story they've told so far. The Witcher 3 was good, really good. Hearts of Stone was absolutely mind-blowing, but this one, Blood and Wine, absolutely knocked me off my chair. There are tons and tons of references, both from previous games and previous adventures as to just things totally not related with The Witcher whatsoever. The world design is, it's drool, it's finger licking good, it's amazing. Toussaint is beautiful. The characters, as always, are bloody fantastic. Some old friends that we've encountered before and some very interesting new characters. The Witcher 3 once again nailed its character creation. Now the cons for this one, some people still found the combat very wonky and sometimes a little bit unstable. It's been a problem with The Witcher 3, it was a problem with Hearts of Stone, and because I haven't changed it, it was a problem with Blood and Wine. I personally really like the combat in this game. Why, for me, all of them are a 10 out of 10 experience, but some people didn't like the combat. Oh, yeah, and of course I forgot about the really wonky horse. Everyone has to agree that the horse is kind of wonky, but it's also funny in a way, sometimes. On at number 1, people who know me slightly should have known. Could have known. If you follow me on social media, you should have known already. My number 1 is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, Overwatch. No, you didn't actually believe that, did you? It's Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. In some people's opinion, this was more of a movie than it was a game, and I tend to disagree with that. Even though, yes, some of the gameplay was repetitive, and not everything was as exciting as some of the chase scenes were, it was all about the story. For some reason, people didn't like it in Uncharted, but they did dig it in The Last of Us, which really was kind of the same thing. What I liked about Uncharted 4 is that it took away all of the supernatural kind of things. There were no Yetis, there were no weird kind of monsters chasing you around. The biggest monster in this game, which I thought was a really beautiful touch, was human greed. Again, the story is absolutely phenomenal. It's the best gaming story that's been told this year, probably. The world is absolutely gorgeous. It's not an open world, and the places that you actually do go to aren't as open either. Of course, you can go out and find like little hidden treasures and all that, who, by the way, aren't important whatsoever, so I really didn't quite see the point of those. But you can, it's not an open world, but the design of the levels is absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. They really paid every single bit of attention to it, and they really pulled that one off. Nolan North and his crew, as always, with amazing acting and movement. The game is very realistic. It's just really, really good. They absolutely nailed that one as well. The characters move very fluently. The climbing, from simply small little rocks falling off cliffs as you grab onto them, everything is just perfect. The only slight con that I have with this game is some of the AI movements, so to speak. It's not that they don't work, it's not that they do things wrong, it's simply that it takes me out of the immersion and it reminds me, oh yes, this is a game. Like when you're walking, when you're like sneaking around in like an old abandoned fortress with like soldiers from the enemy everywhere, and you're just sneaking around like that, the AI will just follow you and walk like straight into the path of like an enemy, and they won't even notice it. And you're like, yeah, that wouldn't happen in real life, would it? There you have it, my list of 2016. Do you disagree? Do you agree? I'd like to know your opinion. Leave them down in the comments, your lists. It would be very appreciated. And I'm very curious about what you think. If you enjoyed this, then make sure to leave a like. And if you didn't, then might as well do it as well. Because it's cool. If you want to be extra super duper cool, if you haven't already, you can subscribe. That's also a very good option. Thank you so much for watching, and then I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!